Hello and welcome to Strange Stories with the Seeker and the Skeptic. Today we are speaking with Miriam Rachel. Miriam is a tarot reader, medium, astrologer, a mental health advocate, podcaster, and a writer out of Toronto, Canada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Miriam. We're very happy to have you with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm always interested in how people started. So where did kind of like your spiritual journey start? Like how did you discover you were a medium? Tell us about that.
Yeah, okay. Well, oh my goodness, where do I even start? Well, okay, so here's the thing. I mean, I was always different in my youth, I had ADHD, but it wasn't diagnosed at the time. But anyway, I was, the one bullied, picked on, etc. And I'll just say that over time, all my all my challenges caused me to do a lot of self-reflection. Actually much later on. But I'll just say that I think the first thing that made me realize that I had some sort of connection in some way was going to a psychic fair when I was 16. And I didn't start to get into this then per se, but I felt there was some type of connection. I'm like, oh, this is cool. It was more than just being fascinated with it, but I thought it was just very interesting. So after I had my daughter, fast forward, I did actually end up with postpartum depression. This was over 22 years ago now. Um, I had some postpartum depression, but I got treated for it. But then, you know what? During that time, while I was, getting treated for it, I was then starting to really delve into this. And I started studying astrology. I started studying tarot. Now I took some courses in astrology through an accredited program, and I did receive my certification in 2006. However, there were some events that happened, some stuff that happened, from that time onward until 2017 per se, that got me out of it because there was just a lot of really bad stuff going on. So I'll just say that I did put myself on a hiatus until until things straightened out. I'll just say that. And then since then, I've been like diving right into it. And I just, at that time, just really, really realized how many psychic gifts I really do have. And it's the same thing like training for a marathon. You got to practice, practice, practice. It's a muscle that you got to work, right? So that's the same thing with psychic work. And the more you work at it, and the more you exercise it, the better you become. And mediumship, the funny thing is that I didn't really think I had the skills for mediumship. I just remember going to a reading right before the pandemic happened, and I said something like, well, I'm not really a medium. And this psychic said to me, well, actually, you are. And I'm like, okay. So then, I don't know, in 2022, I started to delve into that and I started joining some circles. I took some courses. I've been in training programs. So yeah, that's really what it is. So yeah, I am a medium. Now, the thing is, I'm not really into doing mediumship readings by themselves. What I do, my work is I do like tarot readings and I use my psychic skills. And if there are deceased loved ones or guides coming through, then I say, hey, you've got so and so here, and you know what? Some clients don't want that, and that's fine. I completely honor their wishes, but if they're open to it, then whoever comes through, I will tell them.
What are some of those practices that you have done or you continue to do to help you develop your psychic gifts?
I do take a course from a psychic medium. Her name is Stacy Burkell, and she runs courses every few weeks. I do it mostly for the psychic stuff, but I participate in mediumship circles, and as you keep doing that, you keep your skills up. Now, I was worried at times because I was out of those circles. I didn't do them for a while. Whether I had some stuff going on or extra work that was unrelated work, because I do get a lot of writing I do get a lot of writing clients and a lot of work, but you know what? I worried that every time I took a break from it, I'd be rusty. But you know what? I really am not. You don't lose those skills. It's like riding a bike. Once you do it, even if you haven't done it for years, you never forget. It's like driving, same thing.
Yeah, I think that's a normal concern that a lot of people have. And I know, in my own life when I was, younger, like 20 years ago, I had, a lot of strange experiences, and I was kind of, simultaneously afraid that it would never stop, and also very much afraid that it would just go away and it would be out of my life. Um, so for me, it was a little on the complicated side, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't had those conversations with people and experiences yourself, it's hard to know the kind of the nature of this stuff. So I think it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
important to talk about that so that people who might be experiencing things of their own and might want to, maybe they're on the fence of whether or not they want to pursue it or something like that, to hear someone that say things like that, I think is kind of an important thing.
I agree, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah. But there's also a couple things that I want to point out because unfortunately, there are so many frauds. Okay. So many bad. I wouldn't even say they're really psychic, to be honest. There's a lot of scammers. There's a lot of frauds, and they make the legitimate ones look bad because of who they are. And that is really maddening. That is so maddening. And I want to make it clear that nothing, you just because I'm psychic doesn't mean I know what's going to happen to you tomorrow. Okay?
Yeah.
You can't really predict the future. There's free will. See, the way it works is if I do a tarot reading for someone, they usually say, "Okay, so I am doing this and this and this right now. I'm just wondering, is it a good idea?" So the most I can do as far as quote unquote predicting the outcome is seeing what likely outcome will happen based on the path that you're on. And if it doesn't look favorable, you have the free will to switch. And we can look at alternative paths. If there's an alternative path that looks better, then guess what? You have the free will to try that, right?
Yep.
So
I'm
nothing is written
definitely,
in stone. Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely with you. I work in the Akashic records, and what I talk to people about is we can look at your future potentials, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is
Mm-hmm.
what potentially could happen if you continue down this path. But
Yes.
everything that you're saying to me is like, let's look at what is most aligned for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And it's very, to me, that's so much more empowering than somebody saying, this is what's going to happen to you without a doubt, right? Like
Yeah.
if I have the ability to alter things, I have free will, as you're
Yep.
saying,
Mm-hmm.
that feels much better than you're doomed.
Yeah. I mean, I do think some things are faded,
Hmm.
but even
Yeah.
then, you can't really read those things. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You
Hmm.
can, and it may not necessarily be a good idea. I think spirit doesn't allow you to read those things.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I think some things are faded, but most of the time you have free will. And even if things are faded, there's no timeline that's going to be set in stone. You may get to those things at an altered timeline based on whatever path you're taking.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Hmm.
What would
Hmm.
be some advice you could give people to like just be cautious and watch out for the scammers?
So, okay, so there's a couple of things that you need to be careful. If they tell you that whatever they tell you is written in stone and that is for sure the done deal, just run because you can't. If they also tell you that they're 100% accurate, no, they're not. There is no such thing. Okay? A good one will say, well, I do have good accuracy rates. Doesn't mean perfect. Nobody's perfect, you know?
Yeah.
If they have good accuracy rates and if they also make it clear that, don't like what I always say is, well, before I do my readings, I always put a disclaimer just letting you know that whatever I'm telling you is not set in stone. Please do not take what I say as the gospel. You have free will to change it, and free will can change it anyway. But this is just how it appears right now, right? So that's another thing. Just be careful with those that say they're 100% accurate, that whatever they tell you is set in stone. Also, be careful of those who say you are cursed. I can I can remove it for X and X dollars, and that's how they scam you. And that's definitely one. There's also another, and here's another one. Some of them are pretty much bad victim blamers, you know. So if you got to read the reviews too, you got to read reviews. If they are, if they have a reputation for being harsh or unkind, then you may not want to go through it. Now, the thing is, you don't want a psychic to BS you. You don't want to be fed lies. You don't want any of that. But what you want is one that's empathetic, but will also tell you the truth. Also, tell you what you need to hear instead of what you want to hear, because most people who go for a reading, unless they're completely, I don't know, hanging on to false hope or whatever, they want to know what's really going on, and it's not always going to be what they want to hear. So, yeah.
That's really good advice. And if anybody is popping into your instant messages or direct messages
Oh,
and
yes.
offering a readings, just run
Yeah.
away.
Throw it away, just block. I get that too, and I just block them.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very unfortunate because
I
it's like
know.
you're doing good work out there. There are a lot of people who are, I believe, are very legitimate.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. Like these scammers just give those people a bad reputation, unfortunately.
They
Instagram
do.
is the worst for that.
And TikTok.
Well, I'm not on TikTok, but I am on Instagram for the podcast, and I blocked like 6 people over the past couple of months. It's like the message will come, it'll be, you have a message. I'm like, no, I don't. You click on it, it's like, Spirit has a message for you. Well, I have a
No.
message for you. I have blocked you. It's no thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. That's not how you do it. That's just, yeah, people are going to not want anything to do with you if you put out that crap, seriously.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not. I think the way it works really is if you are just giving out good information about the planetary transits and what different tarot cards mean. I mean, I do readings on Instagram, but I do more like collective readings. I'm gonna do one today, and it's because it's a new moon, right? Collective. And I see these are just the energies that you can expect.
Yeah.
But that's it. I mean, I think people like that anyway. I do
Yeah.
a week ahead reading. I put it out every Sunday and Monday. Well, Sunday on Substack, Monday on Instagram, right? But people seem to like that. So, but I don't do lives. I really don't like to do that because I've tried it before, but I got a lot of really weird requests, and I absolutely will not do health readings. I won't do any kind of legal readings. I absolutely will not do pregnancy readings. Okay. And I've made that very clear. And I've even had those, if I did a live, say on TikTok or something, which was a while ago because I don't do it anymore. I still have those saying, "Oh, when will I get pregnant?" And I say, "Sorry, I can't help you with that." So I'll just tell you a story though, okay, about how I found out the hard way about not doing pregnancy readings. Now, I was still learning. We're talking like 17, 18 years ago. I was still just learning, like practicing for free on friends, okay, because I was learning. So I had a friend at the time say, "Oh, I just found out I'm pregnant. Can you do a tarot card reading for me to see how it's going to go?" So of course, me being new, naive, like, sure, because I just wanted to practice. Well, the outcome was the Ten of Swords.
Oh.
And I'm like frozen. What do I do? What do I tell her? So what did I just said, "Look, the only thing I'm going to tell you is just make sure you talk to your doctor, just see your doctor, and that's it." I just I couldn't. She actually did end up miscarrying. But that was the turning point for me to never ever agree to do pregnancy readings. I'm like, I'm not doing this, never again. So you live and learn, right?
Yep.
An accuracy you maybe didn't want. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So I will not touch that. I just won't touch that. So, and I mean, there's a lot of tarot readers that do, and hey, you know what? No judgment to them.
Yeah.
If they want to do it, that's fine. I just can't because I don't want to have that experience again. You know what I mean? Or what if the Nine of Cups comes up, but then something wrong happens? You know what I mean? I mean, I don't want to go there.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, it
Yeah.
feels like taking on a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of other things that you can explore with tarot and,
Yeah.
psychic readings and stuff like that, that it doesn't have to be that. So,
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree. You know, and the other thing that I'm not really crazy about doing is if somebody, hires me for a relationship reading, um, they say, am I going to get married to this person? I'm a little bit weary about that. It's not that I won't do it, but I will make it really crystal clear that please, whatever I tell you is not written in stone. I'll just see how things appear now.
Yep.
And I will tell them if it looks good. I was like, well, there's a really good chance that you will end up together. But again, anything could anything could derail that. So, I say then if you want to check it out more, come back in like a month or two and I can look then. But I really, really have to drum it into these clients that I can't predict their future. I'll just see what the likely outcome is based on the path that they're on, but that can still change, right? That can still change. Absolutely. Yeah. So,
Yeah. How do you receive messages? Like, what are your strongest clairs?
yeah, so I'm clairvoyant. I'm extremely clairvoyant. I'm a little bit better with my clairaudience. I'm practicing it. I also just have that inner knowing as well. Clairsentience is a little bit not great. I think it's because I also tend to block that. I am a metaphobic, by the way. So if I feel nausea, I'm like, oh no, no, I don't want to go there. So I think that's why I'm not so great with clairsentience. I can do it a little bit. Like if I'm doing a mediumship reading, during the circles, because I don't really like to do mediumship readings only. But if I'm in a circle and if I sense that one of their loved ones passed from heart disease or a heart attack, I can just feel a little bit of tightness, but other than that, I don't really like to go there so much. But clairvoyance is really, and the inner knowing is also the really strongest ones, and a little bit of clairaudience, a little bit. I can hear music, I can even hear talking a little, it's just, and it's not like hearing voices. I think a lot of people are confused about that. It's not like hearing voice, it's not like hallucinating. It's like an inner quiet voice. That's really the best way to describe it. And clairvoyance is the strongest. And let me tell you, there are some cons with clairvoyance because you do end up with a photographic memory. And if you see something really horrible, like a dead body that isn't freshly dead, that image sticks with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see spirits as well, or is it more like the clairvoyance is more just in your inner mind?
No, it's in my inner mind. I've seen spirits.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen spirits, but it's more in my inner mind. I don't want to see spirits, and I have put that boundary to spirit saying, please no. Okay. And I don't see spirits. There were a few times when I have. There was one time that I'll never forget. This was back in the old place where I lived. There was a spirit of a fisherman standing on my husband while he was sleeping. And I was just barely awake. And I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And I looked and then the spirit just walked away. I saw the fisherman boots very clearly and just walked towards the window. And I told my husband, like, did you know that you had a spirit on you? He's like, well, I slept really well, so I didn't know who that fisherman was. And then a few years later, he told me that he saw it. He saw it standing over the bedside. So what my feeling is what that fisherman was, I think the area had a pond or something, and this was back over 100 years ago. And what I gathered, because I did look into that, I did gather that he drowned and he was just stuck earthbound in the area. And he was just, because it sounded to me like he visited like a lot of the houses in the area. So it wasn't that he was attached to us, he was just in the area. So, but you know what? So never saw him again. And I mean, I don't live in the same area anymore.
Mhm.
So it was very strange, but I don't want that. I made it clear that I do not want to see those spirits. I don't. So it's all within my mind.
Mhm.
Third eye. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, in the time frame that you lived in that house, did either one of you have any issues with sleep paralysis?
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's rarely happened here. But let me tell you, I have a remedy for that. Now, there is a scientific reason that sleep paralysis happens. Okay. All right. This is a conversation on its own. So let's go there.
Mhm.
So when you're asleep, your body releases a hormone that paralyzes you temporarily because of it protects you from acting out your dreams. And those who don't have this hormone, if you're enough of it, are the ones who do all those strange things like sleepwalking, sleep eating, sleep driving, and all that, right? But it's really a protective mechanism. So the thing is, when you have sleep paralysis, you end up waking up prematurely before that hormone wears off. Like you're in the middle of a REM cycle. But here is where the spiritual side to it. I've actually written a lot of articles on Medium about this. I just wrote one recently a few weeks ago. So, you know that when we're sleeping, our spirit it leaves our body, but we're attached to a silver cord. Like that's why we come back. And even if you got to get up at 3 a.m. to pee, it comes back, right? Yeah. So anyway, you leave, and the thing is that you are basically in limbo, not really fully ready to come back if you haven't woken up properly, if you haven't entered that process. So you're basically in limbo and you're going to be stuck in a not so nice area, and you're going to see some low level entities like shadow people. And if they sense your vulnerability, they're going to attack you. And that's what it is. I mean, yeah, they could say it's hallucinations and all that, but I do believe there is a spiritual component. And let me tell you something. I mean, I had a few of them. Things were not going well when I was in my old place, but there was one where I was so terrified. It was one morning in January 2008. I I don't know, it was really strange because I was dreaming about being in the 60s. And I'm like, I didn't even exist in the 60s. I didn't even exist then. So that was really strange. There was like a lady on like a telephone during the 60s, and that was really weird. But then when I got out of that, there was these tall demonic figure, black figure, and it had a demonic voice, and it started crushing me. Oh my goodness, I was terrified. And then I started looking into ways to like just protect yourself. And then I was told, you know what? Ask for Archangel Michael's protection. And ever since I did that, I never really had it. And those times when I did have it, I must have not been fully asking him for his protection. Because the thing is that these archangels, your angels, your guides are not going to do anything unless you ask them. They're not going to protect you unless it's absolutely not your time and you're going to go to a dangerous area. I mean, we can even talk about all the weird stories that happened around 9/11 to those who were going to go to the Twin Towers, but didn't for some whatever reason.
Yep.
Like such as a very common one was that just suddenly their alarm clock didn't work that morning and they slept in. I mean, wow, that's crazy. And flat tires happened, just so happened. There were other really crazy stories that I read. But yeah, that's the thing. Now I also put out like a bowl of Himalayan salt by my door, by my door, and that I don't see anything. Like it's great. I don't see any spirits. I don't see anything. Um, and I change it every 3 to 4 days. They say you can change it up to a week because you know it absorbs all the negative energy or whatever, right? So it eventually it's not going to work as well. And maybe those times when it did very rarely happen, extremely rarely happen, I may have not been too focused by asking for Archangel Michael's help. I may have not changed it, you know what I mean? But it only happened maybe not even a handful of times since that really terrifying sleep paralysis episode that I had.
Yeah, that is very terrifying.
Oh yeah, it
Okay.
was. Yeah.
I, I have several questions. First, I want to ask Jonathan, how did you know to ask that question?
Yeah.
Um, well, my sleep paralysis experience never involved any kind of a visual element, but a bunch of people who have had that type of issue have seen things, most commonly called like the sleep hag. Usually it's a female, but sometimes it's not. And just the idea of waking up and seeing something that shouldn't be there, that's
Hmm.
not someone who's supposed to be in your house, that's above your bed, kind of make me wonder if there could be a connection between those in
Oh,
that
I believe that.
context. Yeah.
Because, hey, I'll also say that ever since I have focused on asking for Archangel Michael's protection and putting the fresh Himalayan salt, I've had sleep paralysis, but I didn't have the demonic experience. I just was, in fact, it just looked like, you know what? It's morning, but I can't move, but I know I'll be able to move. And yeah. So I believe that if you are really focused on asking for Archangel Michael's protection and putting the Himalayan salt, make sure you change it every 3 to 4 days. Again, you can wait up to a week, but I don't even like to wait that long. And yeah, it's only like what, $7 a month extra to buy that salt. I got to get new anyway, but I just changed it last night, so I'm not gonna go shopping till Monday. So I'll just put that on my grocery list. I have a little left, but yeah, I'll probably change it on Sunday night, and that'll probably be the end of that bottle of it. So but yeah, that's my recommendation because you can still have sleep paralysis. I mean, that stuff is the asking for protection and all that, and doing the putting the salt out is not going to stop sleep paralysis from happening because again, it's a mechanism like a scientific thing. But you can certainly keep those demonic spirits at bay because I do believe 100% there's a connection, and I know why. You are not really back into your body. You're in limbo when sleep paralysis happens because you have not woken up properly. You have to wake up properly when you're done with the REM cycle, and there's a whole mechanism that gets you to wake up. The hormone dies off, and then you're awake. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
What what is like your belief about like what are these demonic entities? Where are they coming from?
The low
What?
plane, the low astral plane, the
Okay.
low astral plane and all that. There's like shadow people, and there's some other ugly entities there. I mean, do those who end up doing really horrible things in their life, do they end up there? I can't answer that completely. I don't know. I mean, I personally think that they're in an isolated area where they do a major, major life review and they're given a lot of guidance and all that. And once they have made their amends in some way, then they just go to the other planes where others are. So I can't say whether the really bad people like who have committed some atrocities end up there. I can't say that. I don't know. I don't
Mhm.
know. I think a lot of them end up earthbound anyway because they're so low level as it is. But I don't know. I can't say that.
So on the flip side, what do you believe angels are?
So yeah, angels are they come from the angelic realm where only I believe angels are. I don't even think that anyone, any ordinary human ends up there. That's just my belief. They're just from the angelic realm. They're there to give you guidance as well. I believe you have your own angels, and you know, when you see angel numbers, repeating numbers, or even compound numbers, single numbers, even, then you got to pay attention to those messages because I do believe that your angels and you have higher guides, not just your regular spirit guides. You have your higher guides too that are giving you messages, and you got to look into that. If you see, for instance, 333 all the time, and it's not just on the clock. Like, say if you buy, bottled water is like $3 anyway these days, which is ridiculous. But you go to a convenience store and get yourself a bottle of water, and then the receipt is $3.33. It's like, okay, and then you look at the time, it's 3:33 in the afternoon, or if you wake up, you got to go pee 3:33 in the morning, then you got to pay attention to that because the angels are basically saying you're on the right track with whatever you're doing. But there's, you know what, you're gonna have your own meaning, your own interpretation too, but it's good to do some research because they're trying to get your attention, you know. Yeah.
We definitely see a lot of angel numbers around here.
Oh yeah, but you know
Yeah.
what? Angel numbers aren't just repeating numbers like that. I just wrote an article recently about how the number 28 is an angel number. Like any number, like even 9, it's like single numbers are. Like any number is. So they have their own meaning.
You have done some past life regression work. So I'm curious about that. What does that work look like and like what are some of the past lives that you've explored?
Okay, well, here's the thing. I'm not a hypnotherapist, so I
Mhm.
don't exactly do past life regression, but I do past life readings. I do past life tarot readings. I also do past life astrology readings, which I've done for a while. I took a break from that too for some time, but I'm getting back into it. So what it is you look at the chart. I mean, there are different past life astrologers that have their own way, but my way is I look at certain points like your 12th house, Saturn, Chiron, Jupiter. And also, there's other points too, like Lilith and Selena and Sedna, and I think I already said Chiron, but that's important. The nodes, obviously, the nodes, especially the South Node, and whatever the personal planets, why they're in the position that they are. There's a past life link to that. So that's basically what I do. And there is a way to find out who you were in your last life just by looking at your natal chart. You know, it's very interesting. So here's the thing. The way I do it, and it seems to correlate. And I did learn this from a few others, but there's other past life astrologers that like, well, I've never heard it this way, but it works for me. So the way it works is when you look at your 12th house, if you want to look at your last life, your 12th house is who you basically were, like as a whole. Just sort of like your first house is. It's like you go back a house, right? It's how you were as who you were. It doesn't mean that was your ascendant. Like say, for instance, if you have Sagittarius on your 12th house cusp, it doesn't mean that your ascendant was in Sagittarius in your first life, in your last life, rather. It just means that that's how you were in general. Maybe you were like jolly, maybe you were knowledgeable, expansive, whatever. It also depends on what planets are there. Just gives you your personality. Then your first house shows what your second house was, like what you owned and all that. So you can see that. If like say if you had Saturn in your first house, like my daughter does, you probably were struggling with money in your last life, right? Okay. And all of that. So the third house cusp, um, in this incarnation would indicate where you were, where you even died, where you were from. So say if you've got Gemini on your third house cusp, then Gemini is connected. And this is where I'd have to use my psychic abilities and my clairvoyance to see what, because there's a lot of countries that are tied to each zodiac sign. So say just for instance, if Gemini is on your third house cusp, then you probably were from Belgium. That's like one of the countries that's linked to to the Gemini, right? That's just one of the countries, right? Yeah, it's interesting because my daughter has a Cancer on her third house cusp, and I know. There's a reason I know this, but she was from Holland, and that's connected to Holland. So yeah, so it's just the way. And yes, you can even see how you died in your and even how old you were, depending on like not exact. I don't know the exact age, but whether you were a kid or an adult, whatever. If you look at your seventh house cusp, that's what your eighth house was in your last life, right? Like just the way it turned out to be. So say for instance, if you have Gemini on your seventh house cusp, then you may have passed away as a child, depending on where Saturn is as well. But you may have also passed away from a respiratory infection because Gemini rules the lungs and the respiratory system, or maybe yeah. So, or if it was, say, Aquarius, maybe it was like an odd accident, or maybe it was a neurological issue. So there's just a lot that's where I have to use my psychic abilities because I'd have to say, okay, this is what's here and this is what I can see happened. Okay, so this makes sense kind of thing, right? So
It's very interesting. I have never heard of past life astrology before,
mhm.
so I had no idea that that was even the thing. Um, and astrology is very interesting to me. It's just so complicated.
Oh, I know. It is.
Just
It is. And the thing is, I'll just say that there's millions and millions of types of astrology too. Horary, I just could never get horary. I couldn't get it. I
what
tried to
is
learn it.
that?
I'm like, if you ask a particular question, like try to look for something or just
Mhm.
ask a question, you just look at the snapshot of the chart at the moment you're asking the question, and that's what will answer you. But so it's like, okay, I tried to learn it, but I'm like, no, I'm not even I don't have the bandwidth for this.
Mhm.
So but there is also esoteric astrology, which is also pretty hard. I use the Placidus system, like the Placidus housing system, Western astrology. But I think with esoteric astrology, it's usually, I could be wrong on this. Usually it's sidereal. So I don't use that though. I don't use that system. It doesn't seem to add up for me.
Mhm.
But more Vedic, I don't know Vedic astrology. I mean, a lot of past life astrologers, I think, prefer to use that system, but I have my own system that works. So,
Yeah.
yep.
I think that there's a perception by a lot of people that is older, and a lot of people feel like older is going to be better. And I don't necessarily think that that's true or not true, but that I think a lot of people who prefer that version, that is why.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, could be. But yeah, I mean, you gotta do what's what fits your truth the most, right? So,
Mhm. Absolutely.
yeah.
What would a past life tarot reading look like?
Oh, there's different spreads. There's different spreads to indicate what you were in a past life and what you experienced in the past life and all that. You could even use the major arcana as character, of personalities. I don't want to say characters, personalities. You could use that as well if you want. Like say the tower, someone could be explosive and you may have had an explosive personality, or maybe you caused a lot of you rocked the boat a lot kind of thing, right? If it was the devil, maybe you may have been dealing with addictive personalities, or yeah, there's other things that could indicate, but I think the past life astrology is more accurate personally, so I prefer to do that. I mean, I will do a past life reading just to give a very basic snapshot of what you were like, but the past life astrology reading tells me more, so.
What would you say are some of the benefits of somebody doing this kind of exploration?
Understanding why they have the lessons that they do and the karma that they do and the gifts that they do too. Now, I also want to make it crystal clear There's a lot of also there's a lot of bad information. There's a lot of these in the quote unquote new age communities that are quote unquote light workers. I hate that term. I hate that term because there's no such thing. You know, there's darkness and light, okay? There's a lot of them that victim blame, saying, well, if you went through like a lot of hell in your life, abuse, etc., then your soul planned it. No, actually, it did not. So here's what I think happens instead. You know, I do believe you do have soul contracts. I believe that if there is karma, you're going to have to, you know, you do deal with it, you do, but you don't know how it's going to play out. All the abuse that they caused you was a misuse of their free will and you getting caught in the crossfire. But at the same time, you would also know that there's a risk. You would know there's a risk. And if you know, that's the furthest I would go. You know there's a risk. I don't believe that you know, I don't want to say too much, but if you had an uncle doing something horrible to you at 3 years old, you didn't plan that. And that is one of the worst invalidating things to tell somebody who had that experience, right? Yeah. But see, the way I see it is I'm not a sports person, but I do love to use this analogy. You have two football teams that are gonna, you know, play a game. Okay? That's the mission. You want to win a football game. Team A against Team B. So Team B is in their Team A's soul contract, if you will, to conquer one another. But you don't know how it's going to play out. You don't know if they're going to play nice. You don't know if one of them's going to injure a teammate. You don't know. But there's a risk of that, right? So it's sort of the same idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're making a valid point in terms of like, um, yes, probably soul contracts exist, but there is free will, and there's so
Oh, yeah.
many different variables of things that can happen that can influence the energy and like the trajectory of somebody's life. So it's, yeah, like,
Yeah, and I also want to, I forgot what the book was called, but the author is Robert Schwartz. That, like, he wrote a couple of books.
mm-hmm.
They made me angry. They made me angry because he made it sound like you plan every little thing that happens, everything, everything. And I'm like, no, you don't. And I could just, and he also was one of those that believed that it was a pandemic and all that. You know, he was one of those that said, "Oh, if you get the vaccine, you're going to end up I don't know." You know, it's just one they were so against all that too. So he was one of those. So you can't exactly trust those who I mean, listen, I have my own opinions about COVID and everything. I do think that there are things that happen that no one's telling us about. I never trust the government at all, but I don't believe it was a pandemic. And you know, these anti-vaxxers really, really, really put a lot of fear into you. So it's like, okay, that's ridiculous. Let's just look at this logically, but there's no such thing. But it seems like those who um those who victim blame are very tied to, oh, pandemic. Oh, you're a sheep if you get the vaccine. They are those people, and I cannot stand them. So,
I think that I am in awe of anyone who is capable of thinking that the number of people who would need to keep a secret would be that capable of keeping a secret that big. Humans
Yeah.
aren't not good enough at keeping secrets
no,
to pull anything remotely like that off.
no, exactly.
People
Like I
can't
said,
keep
yeah,
their own business secret well enough. And something like that, it's just not possible.
no,
That's wishful thinking. There are people who want someone to be in control of everything. And it makes them feel better to think that people are in control of things as opposed to the rampant chaos that is reality. Because that's what life is. Life is chaos.
yeah,
It scares the shit
chaos.
out of
Yes,
people.
yes, chaos.
And
Yeah.
because that's scary to them, they make up these little ideas. And that's all that is. It's
Mm-hmm.
fear. It's just fear.
Oh, absolutely it is. Yes. It is fear. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, going back to what you said, there's light and dark, and to
Yeah,
me, like fear is the dark, and it's unfortunate, like, yeah, our world is just very divided,
it
and
is. And even more so now than it ever was. I mean,
yeah.
you got war too, you got several wars going on, which is just,
Mhm.
yeah, it's terrible.
I'm curious, you said that you had a prophetic dream. So, can
Oh,
you tell us about
yes.
your prophetic dream?
Yeah. Okay. I love talking about this. So I did struggle with some mild infertility. I do have PCOS and there were issues with my husband too. Okay. So we had it was about our daughter. She was conceived through IUI on the second attempt. Okay, so I'll just say that the first attempt didn't work. The second attempt, we didn't think it would work because there were things that went wrong, but odds were defied. But I didn't know that at the time, and about a week, I think it was a week before I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. I always get chills when I'm about to talk about this. It's crazy. I had a dream that I went into a mansion. It had mahogany, like cherry wood rather, cherry wood furniture. The flooring was green and purple with different designs, and the walls I think were green, also like almost like hunter green, right? Um, and then I walk into the office with the cherry wood desk, and there was a chair that was like facing me. Like, okay, the chair was backwards. So I'm looking, and the chair turns around. It's my deceased grandmother, who I was really close to, and she smiles and winks at me. And then I just go to the bathroom. It's like all, green as well. The number 17 is on there, and 17 is an auspicious number. I know that in some cultures it's not a good luck number. Like I just learned that in the Italian culture, it's a fear, it's almost as bad as like 13, but in most cases it's auspicious. I mean, think about the 17th card of the tarot, the star, right? And I see like this little toddler standing there. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So, of course, I woke up just feeling moved by that dream. And then my husband and I just wanted to, it was on a Saturday. So we wanted to go for dinner and we had like a coupon book, one of those, okay, well, let's try a different restaurant and we can, save money or whatever. So we looked into that book and there was a restaurant that looked really interesting. Oh, this looks good. It got good reviews, etc. I mean, there weren't a lot of reviews, you know, um, online because this was back in 2001, but it had good, we were able to see that it had good ratings in other areas, right? So we tried, it was like out of the city a little bit. And when I went to the restaurant, I was blown away because the restaurant looked identical to the mansion in the dream. The design of and the coloring, the cherry wood tables, the chairs, all I could do was talk about, like, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. I can't believe this, And then a week later, I found out I was pregnant.
You tuning into the energy and just kind of seeing what was coming. That's
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it was interesting.
So you have a podcast
I
yourself,
do.
The Tarot Table. Tell us a little bit about your podcast and where people can find you.
Yeah, sure. So I launched it on December 1st of last year, and I started having guests on as of February 2nd. So I talk about not just tarot, but raw spirituality. I talk a lot about mental health, and it's it's a spiritually raw podcast. I'll just say that. Things that need to be said that aren't always so pretty. And it launches, I got an episode coming out today as it airs every Friday. So I'm actually so booked up. I don't have any airspace until March of next year. So it's great.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I just resurrected another podcast. Like I have a blog called The Expressive Mom. It's more of a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle blog, right? I had that podcast a while back, but I ended it for just I just was dealing with so much at the time, so I couldn't keep it up, but I just felt the intense call to resurrect it. So I did, and I'd say even though it's not really new, it pretty much is because not many people know about it. So the first solo, I'm just doing solo episodes for the time being. I will have guests soon, but the first solo episode was on July 2nd on Tuesday. So I got another one coming up on this coming Tuesday. And it's basically a lifestyle podcast. And I do talk a lot about self-care and mental health and all that. That's the idea. And, it's a lifestyle one, like about parenting, do it yourself, whatever, but a lot of it has to do with self-care and mental health and all that. And even pets, etc. I mean, there's going to be yeah, so I'll be pitching some of that soon. I already have a few people I'm going to contact for interviews anyway. I even got a couple lined up as it is, but I'll be pitching that soon as well. So
Awesome.
so I'm on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, So yeah.
Very cool. We'll definitely put the links to your shows in our show notes.
Great.
And you said, that you're a mental health advocate. So tell us a little bit about why, like, being an advocate and talking about mental health issues, why is that so important to you?
Because there's a lot of stigma around it. I mean, I do suffer from depression. I do have CPTSD as well. And there's that's why I get so riled up um, when these new age idiots, I'm just gonna say it, say, "Oh, you planned your life. You planned your life. All the traumas that happened are because you planned it." Like that makes me so beyond angry because that is the worst type of victim blaming. And I talk a lot about toxic positivity because that is very important too when it comes to being an advocate for mental health because no one's feeling should ever be invalidated. We're all going to have human feelings. You can't always be happy. You can't always be grateful. You can't always be joyful, this, that. You're going to feel resentful. You're going to feel sad. You're going to be jealous. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be angry. And the trick is not to stay there, but you've got to process it.
Yes.
Especially when you're dealing with grief of any kind, you're going to not have pretty feelings and you got to let it go through. They can't be shamed. What people need is understanding and validation. And those who throw toxic positivity not only invalidate your feelings, but invalidate your struggles, your mental health struggles. So that's basically where you know, that's basically my focus.
I love it. I'm a therapist, so I'm on board with
Yep.
everything that you're saying. And I'm with you on the no toxic positivity. Do I try to be positive? Absolutely, but I allow
Legit.
myself
Yeah.
to feel those feelings. You have to, otherwise they get stuck inside of you. They fester, they become bigger issues
Yep.
or physical issues,
Yep.
right? So it's like emotions are meant to be experienced, they are meant to be processed. And I mean, I do believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and part of that human experience is to feel your emotions and to have all of it. Like
Yeah.
we're supposed to not just have sunshine and rainbows, like it's wonderful when everything
No,
is
not it's not
great,
reality.
but that's not reality, and that's not, I don't think that's the reason why we're here either. We're supposed
Nope.
to have the full experience.
100%. But I also don't believe that you chose your traumas,
Hmm.
especially when it involves bullying and abuse. You don't. It's
Yeah.
just it's an unfortunate thing that happens. I do think there's a risk. You know that there's going to be a risk, but you don't plan for that stuff. And I get so enraged whenever I hear someone say that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely hearing you. Well, I think that what you're doing is really important and very valuable for a lot of people. People need to know that their feelings are okay and that they're not alone, in their experiences. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anytime anyone even remotely mentions tarot, I ask them this question. Do you
Sure.
have a favorite or preferred deck? And what
Well,
is
I
it?
got my own deck.
Oh,
The penguin deck. Here, I'll show you. Because I love penguins. Okay. Penguin.
I love
Oh,
it. So
that's
you
cool.
created this deck?
Yeah. Yeah. Queen
Awesome.
of Ice is Queen of Cups. I've got also the Wind, which is the swords, and Fire, which is the wands, and Rocks, which is pentacles. So
Nice.
Very
that's
cool.
and there's another deck that I absolutely love, that I'd love to show you as well. Trividia deck. It's gorgeous. I'll just show you some of the, it is absolutely gorgeous. Like if you look at the back here.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful.
Oh, that's very
And
cool.
this is just, oh, the chariot came up, which is funny. So
Nice.
it's gorgeous. So you go on calmura.com, and if you want to get it, get a discount because I mean, you know, yeah, I'll just be flat out is it is an affiliate for me, but you also get a 10% discount. So it's Tarot Miriam 10. That's the code. Tarot Miriam 10.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where can people purchase your deck somewhere?
Yeah, from my site, miriamreadstarot.com, and it's there. And they can also find the link to the Trividia deck as well.
Awesome.
We'll definitely
Yeah.
link to that too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Or Tridevia. I don't know why I say Trividia. It's Tridevia. I don't know. I get tongue-tied. But it's a great, I love it. So
Yeah, that's beautiful.
yeah,
And I
it's
love your
gorgeous.
penguin deck too.
Yeah.
It's just cute and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also
Is there
like
any-
Light Seers. Light Seers deck is also really nice. I love
That
that
is
one.
my favorite. I
Yeah,
have that one.
that's a nice one. Yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to share with us before we wrap up?
Well, I just want to make it clear that you got to be authentic. Don't please others. I used to be a people pleaser, and that was like the worst thing I could have done. So if people don't like you, so be it. You got to live your truth, be authentic, and your feelings are valid.
Love it. I'm with you. 100%.
Yeah.
Recovering people pleaser myself.
Yeah, yeah.
I won't say recovered yet, but we are working on it.
Working on it. Right.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Miriam, for being with us today. This was a great conversation. Really appreciate you taking
And
the
thank
time
you
to
as
talk to
well.
us. Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. If you have a strange story you want to share with us, email us at seekerandskeptic@gmail.com. We look forward to talking to you soon.